Hello and welcome back to the fourth installment of the Always Sunny series, where we go to the filming locations for It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, which I assume you knew because you clicked on this thumbnail. We don't go to any of the locations in Los Angeles, but just here in Philly. Maybe one day we'll get out there, but without further ado, we're gonna go ahead and get into it with episode 1. Season 4, episode 1 starts out with Dee and Charlie at the bar, and they are eating some meat that Charlie stole from Frank. Frank finds out about it. He says that it's deer. It turns out to not be deer. Mac and Dennis say that it can't be because Frank doesn't even hunt, and even if Frank did hunt, he should be hunting something that can fight back, you know, like another human.
A really great hunter would go after something that could hunt him back. Oh, like a man.
Throughout the episode, Charlie and Dee are trying to figure out where the meat came from because they really enjoy it and they have no idea.
It's so good though, I don't care. Where could Frank go to get mysterious meat?
And that's when we end up getting this very first scene. This is the Chinatown gate. I covered this a bit in season 3, so we won't go into too much more detail about it, but they come to Chinatown so that they can try and track down where they got this strange mystery meat. After we get that footage from the Chinatown gate, we come down one block to the corner of Cherry and 10th, where we find engine number 20, ladder number 23, here, the fire department in Chinatown. It's here in Chinatown that Dee and Charlie are trying to find this mystery meat. It's at one of these stores that somebody offers to sell him monkey meat.
Hey, we got monkey.
After that scene, we end up getting Mac and Dennis. They are at the bar and they're discussing what they need to hunt a man. Frank is trying to discourage them. And then we get another scene with Dee and Charlie where they decide that they should probably go down to the morgue and try and get some meat there because Frank had suggested that the mystery meat that they ate was actually human. Yeah, it's a weird scene.
$50 gets you 10 minutes alone with the bodies.
Mac and Dennis have decided that they're going to hunt cricket, so we find them here at the corner of 7th and Chestnut. They are hiding in a box, and they're discussing what they're going to actually do with Cricket once they find him. Dennis is really excited to teabag him and put his nuts in his mouth, but Mac points out the fact that they've been doing that for ages, and he wants to do something else.
It's just like our normal lives, except at the end of it, we get to put our nuts in some dude's mouth.
And that's where he recommends that they do something called a gorilla mask, where they end up shaving all their pubes and they put it on his face, and it really leaves a mark. You know, maybe so he ends up looking a little bit like this. Definitely didn't happen to me.
Yeah, okay.
As Mac and Dennis are discussing what they're gonna do with Cricket, we end up seeing him walking down here, and then Cricket leans over by this tree. He makes eye contact with Mac and Dennis, sees them, and he bolts off. And then we see Cricket run around this corner here. This is Ionic Street. This is right next to 7th and Chestnut. Doesn't really make sense though that he came around this corner because they're coming from that direction, but I guess this may be just made for better filming. Mac and Dennis are right behind him. After Cricket runs around the corner to Ionic Street, we see him right over here doing parkour up this fire escape. He goes all the way up, and Mac and Dennis stop giving pursuit.
Not doing that,
No,
Dennis.
that was incredibly dangerous.
This is a really awesome location because you can find everything that you need here, from a mattress, furniture, designer handbags, definitely clean needles. I guarantee they've never been used, ever. Hell yeah, free furniture. Right after that, we end up seeing Cricket here. This is basically Carlton, but I like to describe this as being between 10th and 11th Street over there, with Callow Hill being over there. So I would say 11th and Callow Hill, but it is Carlton. Cricket is still on the run, and then he ends up running over this way to one of these back alleys. Cricket ends up running into the alleyway and he trips, falls, stumbles. Then we see Frank emerge from the trash and Frank basically says, "Hey, I'm not here to kill you." Cricket is initially fearful that Frank is there to kill him, but it actually turns out that Frank is there to team up with Cricket so that he can teach Mac and Dennis that it's not right to hunt people.
Wait, what?
They drew first blood.
Right after that, we end up seeing a note that is put into the table with a knife right next to Mac. It says, "Tag, you're it." Mac ends up giving Dennis a gorilla mask. Dennis ends up teabagging him, but it was Cricket who ended up leaving the note. Later on in the episode, we also find out that Charlie and Dee were actually eating raccoon meat, and they probably got a parasite. That's why they had such an insatiable hunger. Season 4, Episode 3. This is the very first banned episode of the series. I'm going to talk about why it was banned once we get to the next scene, but for now, to set up the episode, Frank is at the bar and he's basically telling people that they got to stop spending money. Dee, however, seems to think that buying a camera to become a YouTube star is a great investment because she has all sorts of characters that she can use. Frank also mentions that he has purchased a billboard to advertise for Patty's, and of course Dennis and Dee and everybody else wants to be famous and be on the billboard. Back at Dee's apartment, she's doing a caricature of a stereotypical Irish person to do an advertisement for Patty's Pub. It's after that, we end up getting this B-roll footage, which is actually pretty common B-roll footage throughout the series. Now, unfortunately, I can't line this footage up the same way that they do in the series because as you can see, this right here is no longer a vacant lot and it's not a fence. This has been built up quite a bit, but you can see behind me, we have the Ben Franklin Bridge. Here's 2nd Street. We're right on Race Street. 3rd Street is down that way. And then we find ourselves here at the corner of 15th and JFK Boulevard, right in front of City Hall. This is Dilworth Park. Right across the street is Love Park. We've covered this area quite extensively before. However, since this is the banned episode, I'm gonna go ahead and go into it again. This is the scene where we end up getting Dee's character, where she plays a stereotypical Puerto Rican news reporter named Martina Martinez, who's always quick with a comeback. In this part, she thinks that SNL is really going to like this character and that it's gonna get their attention. She also wants to approach some construction workers, some manual laborers, and pretty much berate them, make fun of them, and then she expects that Charlie's going to come in and hit them with a ball while he's dressed up as Green Man, but it turns out those construction workers are a little bit bigger than them, they're a little bit more menacing, so Charlie ends up just pelting Dee in the face with the ball and they have a good laugh. Now, as of to why this episode is banned, well, this episode was banned because I'm guessing she does the Martina Martinez character, and that was apparently so offensive that the streaming services felt the need to remove it from their platform. So thank you, Hulu, Disney Plus, and Amazon for letting me know what is and isn't too offensive. You know, I certainly thought that in season 1, episode 1, the gang gets racist when Charlie uses a racial slur and he says this.
They have a hanging from rafters.
Wow.
I thought that might have been crossing the line. Or maybe in other episodes where they make continuous jokes about child, like Charlie got, yeah. I can't even say the word because, you know, we have to self-censor on that, but hey, that's beside the point. But, you know, despite the homophobic slurs or, you know, pretty much any of the other offensive things like Frank banging his niece, none of that is too offensive. This is what crossed the line. After the Martina Martinez scenes, we end up seeing Charlie back at Dee's apartment. He's reviewing the footage and it's just horrible, and he says that we need to redo the footage, but it's here that he ends up discovering that Dee's been making a video journal pretty much on a daily basis. So he, without her permission, starts uploading it into YouTube, and he titles it Pathetic Girl 43. After that, we see Mac at the bar. He's trying to use the contest to find true love. Following that, we finally get Taiwan Tammy. It's another one of Dee's characters where she's basically playing as a stereotypical Taiwanese person. Charlie ends up pointing out that this is an extremely offensive character, and it's at this point that somebody comes up and he says that he recognizes Dee as Pathetic Girl 43 and he wants to get a selfie with her, and she's really excited. We are basically across the street from City Hall, same general area. It's at the municipal building. It's actually changed quite a bit as well. It's under construction right now, so I can't get to the exact location where they were. Back at their apartment, Dee is initially pretty upset about it, but then she sees how many views it got on YouTube, so she decides that she's going to completely fully lean into this character, Pathetic Girl 43, and eventually she starts making her own kind of scripted videos that she plans on uploading. Meanwhile, back at the bar, the contest is still ongoing, but Frank has made it so difficult for Dennis because he doesn't want Dennis on the billboard. Dennis eventually ends up dropping out after he refuses to eat a bowl of cockroaches, but he comes into the apartment and he says that they need to steal the company card so that they can go buy a billboard and put him on the billboard. Charlie ends up having a better idea, and that's when we find ourselves here at the corner of 6th and Chestnut. We have the Liberty Bell in that building right behind me. This is a very historic area, but while we're here, Dee's character, Pathetic Girl 43, is interviewing Dennis, and Charlie ends up running up in the green man suit, and he kicks Dennis in the balls. Mac is wrapping up his love competition, and he picks the 2 girls who banged him.
But you just said that I taught you about inner beauty and respect.
Yeah, but this whole thing's about banging, and you didn't bang me. So,
I think he made kind of the wrong decision there, but this is Mac that we're talking about. Dennis comes in and he says that he has a video that's gonna be better than the billboard, but Frank says it doesn't matter because he went ahead and got the billboard. Let's go ahead and change that. Looks like a happy man to me. Anyway, this is the very last scene that we get for this band episode. Unfortunately, you know, you have this building in the way, so you can't quite see the skyline. I'm gonna move down the block so that you can get a little bit of a better view. But this is between this is between 12th and 13th Streets on Vine Street. Yeah, so anyway, let me know what you think. Was this an episode that should have been banned? Let me know down in the comments. Episode 5, Mac and Charlie Die, starts out with a court hearing for Mac's dad. He is trying to get released from prison. It's during this court hearing that he reveals he never wanted to harm Mac and Charlie. He just wanted to get as far away from them as humanly possible. At this point, he also pulls out a tape recording, and it reveals that Mac and Charlie were attempting to lie at the hearing so that he would end up staying locked up even longer.
I'm gonna tell those parole board dickheads that you said you're gonna my butt until the room stinks, and then you're gonna eat my butt until your stomach is full of butt, full of my butt and full of Mac's butt.
After that, we end up finding that there's a glory hole in the bathroom stall at Patty's Pub. Mac is attempting to pull Charlie's teeth out, and Dee yells for Charlie to go and fill in the dick hole. They are trying to fake their own death though, so nobody's got time for that dick hole. Right after that, we end up getting this scene of the skyline. This is taken here on Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. It's just kind of the northwest end of the city. It is right over by the Art Museum, which is over there, and then right across the river, this is the Schuylkill River, we have those row houses that you see in the beginning in the intro of the show. You see it at night when it has all the lights on it, but it's right over there. This is one of my favorite B-rolls because it can show you how much the city skyline has changed over the years. I think this is actually probably my favorite. It's a little bit of a pain to get the angle, but I think I did a pretty good job. I don't know, what do you think? The next scene we end up getting is here at 2031 Penrose. This is the Holiday Inn. In the show, it was an Econo Lodge. Prior to this scene, we have Mac and Charlie. They're at a pawn shop in Los Angeles, at least that's where they filmed it, and they're trying to get some stuff so that they can blow up Dee's car and fake their own death. We also get Dee trying to get Charlie to fill in a glory hole that's in the bathroom, and then after that, we also get Mac and Charlie. They're hiding out on the roof of the bar. That's when it cuts to this scene, and at this scene, this is where Mac's dad is writing out a letter. The letter sounds incredibly threatening, where he states that he just wanted to be left alone, but because they didn't leave him alone, he now has to resort to other measures.
Something I was hoping I would never have to do.
Season 4, Episode 7, Who Pooped the Bed? The first new scene that we get is right here on Gaskill, right down the street from where the waitress works. She is walking down the street when Dee hops out from behind a car and tries to convince her to come out and join her for a ladies' night out. Obviously, the waitress doesn't want to do it because she hates Dee and the whole gang, but somehow Dee manages to convince her to come out by reminding her that she has no real friends and her cat died a few weeks ago. So, you know, what else is she going to be doing? In an effort to find out who pooped the bed, the gang brings a sample of fecal material here to the University of Pennsylvania. That's when we end up getting this shot of Benjamin Franklin. This is right here on Locust Walk at the University of Pennsylvania. Like I mentioned, it's right next to the Fisher House, which we covered in Season 1, Episode 1, so go back and check that out if you want to see more of this area. But instead of finding a scientist to actually analyze the feces, they get a weird guy who finds newspaper clippings, wolf hair, and he just likes looking at poop. I'm not gonna kink shame, but yeah. After Dee has her little mental breakdown at the art museum because all of the artwork reminds her of poop, she goes back to the bar in a rainstorm. As she comes into the bar, a bolt of lightning goes off and the power goes out for a brief moment. When the lights come back on, we see her purse on the floor with another piece of poop. After this, Artemis starts recalling where all the poops came from. At least that's what she thinks with her investigation. But at that point, she addresses Frank, and we see Frank here at the corner of the Vine Street Expressway and 11th. Anyway, long story short, it turns out that all of Artemis's theories were incorrect. She did not place where the poop came from, and it turns out that all of them came from Frank. Episode 8, Patty's Pub, the worst bar in Philadelphia. We have Lyle Corman. He is a reporter for the Philadelphia Inquirer, and he does a review of Patty's Pub, and he calls it the worst bar in Philadelphia. Obviously, the gang is very upset about this, so they decide that they're gonna come here to his office. It's at the corner of Callow Hill and Broad Street. They pay him a visit, and they try and encourage him to rewrite the article.
Oh, how's that for class?
He refuses to do so, so they end up kidnapping him. They kidnap his neighbor. They kidnap his neighbor's cat. All sorts of stuff. It is just a whole mess. At the end of the episode, Lyle Corman basically decides that he is not going to press charges against them for the kidnapping because them having to live together is already hell enough. Dee makes a genuine attempt to see what Charlie's life is all about, which basically just entails eating a whole bunch of cat food and huffing glue. In an attempt to get him to walk a mile in her shoes, she brings him here to 221 South Street.
Okay, you got some glue on your face though. You might want to wash that off.
God damn it.
Which used to be the Laugh House. She comes here every single night to do stand-up comedy, and she bombs miserably. I mean, just dry heaving and everything. She can't even get a single joke out. But unbeknownst to Charlie, she has also signed him up to do a routine, and he pretty much just talks about cheese the whole time.
What is cheese? Where does it go?
After Sinbad and Rob Thomas give Dennis a hard time in rehab, we find Charlie and Dee coming here to Logan Square, although in my opinion, it's a little bit more of a circle. Charlie has apparently been stealing coins that Dee has been throwing in here every day, coins that she throws in for the sake of hoping for a better life. Frank and Mac show up, and Frank explains that he's been coming here every day for 50 years at this time so that he can piss in the pool, because apparently when he was a kid, a bunch of bullies kicked him out and prevented him from swimming. Mac asks him why, after 50 years, is he still coming here, and he says, let's get back at their kids. Mac notices Dee and Charlie fighting over the coins in the fountain, so they come up and see what's going on. They explain everything, and then at that point, Dennis shows up and he starts washing his face. Mac asks him what he's doing. Dennis explains that he uses the fountain for its curing powers and that it's great for his skin. He explains the whole thing with Rob Thomas and Sinbad. They say, hey, is that actually, real? Can we put that in the story? They go and investigate it, and it turns out that maybe Dennis was possibly hallucinating, was really all in his head, or was Sinbad and Rob Thomas actually messing with Dennis? We'll never know.
So you lied to us, Dennis?
No, I didn't lie. No, I swear to God, this was all real. Sinbad was here, I swear. That's it. I'm calling the cops.
Episode 10, Dee has a heart attack, starts out with Frank taking fat bong rips, and Dee suddenly has a heart attack, which is where the title of the episode comes from. That brings us over here to the University of Pennsylvania Hospital on the corner of 34th and Spruce. We were actually here in season 1 where Dee is waiting for a bus. It's just right across the street, but this is over in University City. There's the University of Pennsylvania is right here. There's obviously a whole bunch of hospitals. After Dee has her heart attack, she decides that she's going to take better care of herself, so she gets a gym membership here at the Northern Liberty City Fitness. This is located at Spring Garden and 2nd. This is a chain of gyms that's here in the city. They're very popular. Fun fact, if you are ever having any difficulties canceling your contract, or you have a gym here in the state of Pennsylvania that is not canceling your contract like you told them to, go ahead and look up section 2164 of the 1989 Pennsylvania Health Club Act. Yeah, might be helpful for you. Not that that has anything to do with City Fitness. I swear they do everything by the book, and the person who writes their contracts just does a wonderful job. Frank is the only one who has decent health insurance. Mac and Charlie come over here to 1900 Market Street to try and get a job in the mailroom. They end up working as one employee, but they hire together and get minimum wage collectively. I'm not really sure how that works legally. This is the 1900 Market Street location. This is the same thing that we saw in season 3, The Gang Gets Whacked Part 2, where Dee and Charlie were attempting to sell cocaine to Wall Street types. As you can assume, their job in the mailroom, they do a terrible job and they just kind of ruin everything. But we end up getting that really famous meme, you know, with the Pepe Silva and where's the mail going and all that.
Now let's talk about the mail. Can we talk about the mail, please, Mac? I'm dying to talk about the mail with you all day.
Hi. Dee and Dennis get kicked out of their spin cycle class. Mac and Charlie are still delivering the mail. And then we get this shot from here at 16th and Walnut. Frank is walking around here. He has taken a little bit too much of his prescription medication and now he's in a very lucid state, just kind of wandering around as is. Episode 11, The Gang Cracks the Liberty Bell. We don't get a whole lot of new footage in this episode. In fact, this is the last bit of actual Philadelphia footage that we get in this season. The next episodes after this, we don't really get a whole lot. But in this episode, we end up finding the gang at the Pennsylvania Historical Society, which is actually what this is. Here, they're attempting to petition them to designate Patty's Pub as a historical site because they are claiming that it played a role in the cracking of the Liberty Bell. And at that point, they end up going into a whole big story, which is basically a flashback to the 1700s. Mac and Dennis, they are loyal to the crown and they're trying to write a declaration of dependence towards the king. Cricket, he works for the British. Dee is basically the only true patriot of the gang, but their whole story just kind of goes topsy-turvy and wild as you would expect, and they don't get designated as a historical site. Who would have thought? But anyway, that's it for now. I appreciate everybody sticking around and I will try and get season 5 out to you pretty soon. But if you like this, feel free to like and subscribe. I'm actually really curious what you think about that band episode. I definitely want to hear your opinions on that. Or if you have comments about anything else, any feedback, anything like that. So like I said, I'm gonna try and get season 5 out to you guys pretty soon, but I have a few things coming up, so we'll try and get that, but we'll see. Until next time, take care.